It's even harder to smile when all you want to do is frown and cry. I know times is hard, but you still got to clean up your backyard. You got more strength than you...
Hi, welcome to the Ketriana Yvonne Show. Today's guest is the fabulous Philena Taylor, representing the fashionandthearts.com. Welcome, Philena.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Finally, I have you grace the couch. You are here,
Yes.
and I just want to give a little tidbit about who she is and let her fill in the rest.
Okay.
Philena is a marvelous person, first of all, and I met her a couple of years ago, and she has this passion for fashion,
Yes.
and she was relaunching her website and taking the world by storm to date. And it's so many things she does and has done in just a short period of time. So, and she's getting ready for another event on
Yes.
July the 6th. And so I'm just going to let you go right into it. Welcome
Okay.
to the show, Philena.
Thank you again. Fashion and the Arts was founded in 2008. I started it because I was managing a fashion designer, and I just felt that there was not enough opportunities if you didn't have a name for yourself. It's one thing to sew for friends and family, but it's another thing to get your designs out there, get celebrities to wear them, get people to connect with so that you can get recognized for your work. I don't promise anybody fame or anything like that. It's just a matter of supporting you when it comes to the arts. Fashion is first because, like you mentioned, it is a passion for me. However, I try to include different genres such as music, dance, poetry, which you and I are very familiar with that, and film. Film, I haven't quite found that filmmaker that I'm showcasing, but I was able to launch the music and I was able to launch the poetry. And the fashion I try to keep during Fashion Week, which is in September and February. So the upcoming event is poetry. It's the second annual. And we are featuring 8 poets as well as a dancer and a live jazz band. So we're going to fuse jazz with the poetry. And we're also going to honor a certain person sitting next to me here. So we'll be honoring you as well. And that pretty much gives us a show. So what I try to do is put in the audience, people who are interested in the artists, whether it's politicians who may need them to perform at a function, whether it's people within the industry that can connect them with somebody else, and many times they themselves connect each other so that if one finds out about something going on, we try to support the whole unit and everybody that comes through to say, come here and perform here.
Well, and, of course, I got to add my 2 cents.
Okay.
So in a period of 2 years?
2 years.
2 years. Okay, like most people have an annual celebration or event. I think you've done, like, this will be the 4th event?
5 shows.
5 shows.
5 shows, yeah.
She brought fashion to Borough Hall.
Yes,
to Brooklyn last
yeah.
year, and I had the honor of hosting that fabulous event and introducing about, 8 different designers for that event. And then recently she hosted another fashion event and a jazz event.
Yes.
And I mean big events, fabulous events, okay? In a matter of 3 months in between?
Yeah, well, ideally, I would like to do a show every other month. That's ideally. But I still hold down a job on the side.
Yes, okay.
And it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Tremendous amount of work.
And I can testify.
Yes.
And for the amount of work that you do and how you do it, because I mean, she has a team, she is together, and it's a unit, and it's tight, and everything flows. And she, you know,
I'm a perfectionist.
She's a perfectionist, and it
you'll
shows.
see things that I don't, or how should I say? You won't see things that I do. But in representing these artists as well, I consider myself an artist, and so our connection is I get it. I get why a lot of times they freak out as far as before a performance, and what it takes to just calm them down to know that it's going to be okay, because it's very, very hard to get in front of an audience and hope that they appreciate your art the way you see it. And making that connection it's just not an easy thing, and it can bring about a lot of anxiety, because sometimes you bomb, sometimes you just won't do well. Not everybody will appreciate your art, but
well, we don't have to worry about that, because that hasn't been the case so far, and I'm pretty sure it won't be.
Thank you
to
so
touch
much.
on that, I think that the next after the July event, you're also going to be doing your first line.
Well, okay, let's go. Yes, ideally I would like to do my own line. I feel like since I was born, I was designing clothes, redesigning clothes. I was always a big girl. A lot of things weren't in my size, but I never saw myself as a big girl, like, oh, I can't wear this or I can't do this because I'm big. I do feel that certain things should be worn for certain body types, but not necessarily if you're big or small. So in designing and wanting to design my own line, I learned this year, as a matter of fact, how much it takes to design your own line. And it answered a lot of questions for me as far as why so many are not in the forefront. Just to appear in Fashion Week, when I started, which was 2008, it's about $250,000 minimum. We're not even talking about the whole production of it and having the accolades of being in Fashion Week. At that time, it was Mercedes-Benz. So all you saw were the major designers year after year after year, because that's who could afford it. And now the trend is changing as far as fashion is concerned because of the internet. And even though the hopes were to level the playing field, it really not necessarily does, because it takes so much to sustain and keep that website going. There's a lot of fees that are involved. You might be able to get the domain name for $10 or less, but then once you get that domain name, what do you do with it then? It has to be maintained. It has to, you have to be current. Fashion is always current. And that's why even if you look at my site, fashionandthearts.com, there's some things that I just won't put up there yet, because I know that I can't keep it current. It's one thing to have a website, but it's another thing to get people to visit your website and to continually visit your website, because they're looking for that content, and then you're competitive with everybody else that's doing the same thing. Now you have bloggers, which, when I started, it wasn't the main thing. People barely are looking at the websites now. It's social media. It's not really what's your website, it's what's your Instagram. So constant. You have to keep up, and that's why I say it's a lot of work. It's a lot of getting people together, and not necessarily will it be monetarily rewarding. You have to have a passion for it, because there's days that the money will not come, and there's times when people, even with a contract, don't show up. So you have to always think, what do I do now? Because I have an audience. I have to continually entertain this audience. And then that's another thing. Weather can be a factor. Can be a snowstorm. Boom, there's your show. What do you do then? You have to have something always in the back of your mind of if this happens, then what?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's key. That's key advice for any business, any function. So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
that is
so.
definitely probably some of the best advice you have to remember. The backup plan.
The backup
know,
plan. And then you have to always think, not everybody wants to work, and I say that not they want it, but when they see what it entails, I'll just use Beyonce and Jay-Z who are doing their concert now. There's so much work. There's lighting people. There's so much into a production work, not to mention that your show or your performance has to be on point as well. So orchestrating all those people to put on that performance, and yes, you're in the spotlight, but deservingly so because you put in the work. And that's what a lot of people get on board and they'll say, oh, I want to do this or I want to do that. Like I always say to them, I don't promise you fame. I definitely don't promise you fame. But if I can see like right away if an artist is serious about their work or if they're just, okay, I just want to get in front of a camera or I just want to do this for the moment, because it will show when you put the work in and when you don't put the work in. And if I'm up at 3, 4, 5 in the morning and having to go to another job and maybe on 3 hours, 2 hours of sleep, and you can't even get up to make it, or you have a million excuses, or even you're getting high, I have a low tolerance because Anna Wintour, I watched a documentary that she once said, if you're not willing to work as hard as I'm willing to work, there's no need for me to have you around me because it takes work, period. So.
Yes. And like I said, you have a team that supports. You do have a supportive team.
Yeah.
It's
I do. I do. I cannot take away from
right.
them.
And it is such a blessing to have that.
It definitely
because
is.
I'm blessed to have that. And her team is a little bigger than mine, but it's like everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing. They do it. It's coordinated. It's beautiful. And
it takes time.
And I'll give you that amongst other things.
It takes a lot because there's going to be a lot of disagreements. There's going to be a lot of.
And the main thing about that is I never see that.
Yes,
and
I'm so grateful for
that. And it can be disagreements, but that is nothing that people from the outside need to see.
Right.
That's another important lesson
that definitely
people in
is
business need to know.
Yes, definitely.
No matter, you're a guest on my show, just like when I come to your shows,
right.
I'm a guest.
Right.
So, and I'm in the background sometimes. So I still don't see
everything that goes on.
Maybe once. No.
Right.
That's an inside,
well, at least it's one time.
Joke.
At least it's only one time.
But it's a wonderful thing.
Oh,
and I
thank you.
So proud of her. Because believe me, it's one thing, like you meet somebody, and I meet people all the time. And people can present you with an idea, say they're going to do this. Or, it's just like people, I might have an eye for a person. I can see the future. And I'm like, they're going to be big, blah, blah, blah. Call me. Or somebody may pass their name. I may not know the person, but usually I like to know the person or have seen them. And then I can kind of judge, and, for me, it's real simple. It's, the way that like if you tell someone, okay, I'm going to work with you.
Right.
And what the response is. Are they going to show up when they're supposed to show up?
Right.
Or are they going to give you an excuse? And if they don't show up, I don't worry about it because they're not ready. But people that are ready, they'll be there. They'll work as hard as you do, and everything will be beautiful. And then I guess the lesson is to learn when you give an opportunity to someone, just see how it goes. They'll let you know if they're ready.
Pretty much. That's pretty much what I do.
And after that, I'm done.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm on to the next person that's ready.
Because you have so much to do and you want to accomplish so much that
Right.
time is of essence.
Right.
And for me, the one thing I have a pet peeve with is when someone wastes my time. I don't care if you rob me. You could knock me over the head and
Right.
rob me. But if you waste my time, that's when, I have a problem with you because, I always start all of my shows with letting people know that time is the most precious gift we have in this earth. And I am so humbled when I see people in the audience that's willing to share their time with me. I am very humbled by that. Yeah.
And time is a precious thing. And I guess, when you get older, it seems like, it's like for me, it's like one long continuous day. Like some days it's like, oh, did that day end? I mean, it sounds weird, but really, when you're like constantly doing stuff other than when you do sleep, but then you wake up again and it's like, ask me, and then the next day is the same. So for me, it's that concept is like, wow, like it could, like tomorrow I'll be moved on to something else. I'm like, what did I do yesterday?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
it was just yesterday.
Well, my staff always ask me, when do I sleep? I tell them I do sleep,
I don't know.
but
We
they
have to
always
look at
ask
your.
me.
I know on my phone.
You know,
my
I'll
phone
send you a
says-
text.
Yeah, like my phone will say, were you asleep between 2 and 6?
Right,
Like,
right.
I
No,
guess when the
it's-
phone is down.
I keep a notebook by my bed. I sleep with a notebook by my bed. Many times, many of the thoughts and the
Right.
visions come right there, and I have
And what
to have
time is
them
that?
at
Around
any
4?
given time. 4, 3, 2. I wake up at 4. If I ever doze off for some reason
It's
at
a good
4
reason.
o'clock in the morning,
That's
I'm
when the
always
up.
up. Like
Oh.
something always wakes me up, and I equate it to my time with God.
Yes.
So.
And that is something I repeat on most of the shows. Like when you wake up 3, 4 o'clock, it could be for writers, anyone. Usually, like people think, I just woke up, I had to go to the bathroom. Oh, I just got up and got something to eat, whatever. But if you, I was like a fan of Wayne Dyer, and he used to say, like, usually for him it was 3 o'clock. And, for writers, whatever, it's like your muse comes at certain times. And that's the time when you wake up. So you just have to acknowledge that you're up and it's a message coming to you. And, you have your book ready.
Yeah.
So you just take note of what comes to your mind and try to act on that.
Yeah,
because that's what you woke up for, that wisdom.
Definitely so.
Welcome that, those wake up calls. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So you got your book and your pen, and the poetry portion of it is Pen the Passion, which I love. And, we talked about, and then the jazz. So this event is going to be putting the jazz to poetry. And I look forward to that. And the new, whenever it happens, the Philena Taylor fashion line that'll just take the world by storm, putting all you designers out there on notice that Philena Taylor is in the house.
It's
She will be representing arts, okay? And once again, her website is www.fashioninthearts.com. And, I just thank you,
and thank
my beautiful
you.
sister, for doing all the extraordinary
thank you.
things that you do.
Thank you so
And
much.
I'll just let you end the show with whatever you want to tell the world.
Well, I do want to tell the world, I hope you can join us this coming Friday. That's the 6th. It's at South Oxford Space, which is on South Oxford Street between Atlantic and Fulton. It starts at 7 o'clock. It's $15, which is not much for what we do. And you can come and see what I do. It's better for you to come and see it than me speak it.
Well, thank you.
Thank
and
you.
I'll be there. Hope you will too. And we also will be showing it on air at a later time. So see you next. Welcome to the Ketriana Yvonne Variety Show. And today's guest is the fabulous Mirielle Edouard. And her new book is the Hazy Unicorn. Welcome, Mirielle.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm fine.
Fantastic. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. I
Thank you for
appreciate
coming. And so tell us, you have a new book, 31 Days to
Yes.
Meditation for people that are beginners.
Yes.
So tell me, what was your inspiration for this book and just your whole journey?
Yes, guys. Well, as she said, my name is Mirielle, and my book is The Hazy Unicorn, the Not So Perfect Guide to Mastering Meditation in 31 Days. Pretty much, it's a book to help people who are venturing out into the field of meditation and just to help them kind of get started. I've experienced that a lot of people think that meditation is like this big old thing that they need to do it perfectly or not do it at all. And so they develop what I like to call meditation anxiety. So it's like because they feel that they're not doing it perfect, they don't want to do it at all. And so this book is a step-by-step guide to help you develop your own personal meditation practice in 31 days and help you feel comfortable about it and allow you to go ahead and teach other people based on how you've developed your own practice.
Okay, and so tell us your story of getting into meditation, because that's I know the story, but I don't know the full story. And so, would you tell us about your experience starting out?
Well, I started meditating back in maybe like 2014, and after that, I was laid off. I was laid off from a job. I was kind of reeling, trying to figure out what to do in terms of where my life was going. I came from a huge corporate sales background, really successful in sales, and then after that, being laid off, I was just like, what's next? And so throughout that time, I went through like a downward spiral of doubting myself, losing confidence, because I realized that a lot of times we tend to characterize ourselves based on the work that we do, right? And so I found that I was doing the same thing. So when I wasn't this big time sales executive, who was I? And so after going through this, I started meditating to kind of help silence the noise, silence all the chatter. I couldn't find a job. I was on unemployment, just kind of going through the motions of not feeling happy with who I am or where I was currently in my life. And so that's how I started meditating. And then I started it by watching a documentary. It was a documentary about, on Netflix, as a matter of fact, called the it chronicled the life of Yogananda. It was called Awake. And after I started watching it, after I watched it, I should say, it allowed me to really see meditation as a way to kind of connect with self. And it's my personal opinion that until you learn how to connect with yourself, you don't know who you are. That may sound so mystical or something like that, no, but it's not. Once you know the true identity of who you are, by taking the time to connect with yourself, your voice becomes more powerful. You can speak up confidently about who you are and what you're offering into the world each and every day, as well as it gives you the ability to make decisions more accurately, more confidently, right? And so that's what meditation did for me. So back in 2016, I said, I want to take this a little bit more seriously. And in terms of the practice, I was already practicing for myself for 2 years. I wanted to take it a little bit more seriously. And so I decided to move to Bali for a little bit. So that was really something that I don't know. I would encourage anybody to do, to sell all your stuff. Maybe not if you feel comfortable. I needed a break because I had so much mess going on in my everyday life that I just needed to find a clear way. And just as in meditation, I personally don't believe that you can find what it is that you're looking for if your environment is not conducive to it. And my environment wasn't conducive to it. I felt like every day was just another set of trials and tribulations and things that I was just experiencing that I just needed a break. And so in order to disconnect from my world at the time and from my mess, as I like to call it, I got up and I bought a one-way ticket to Bali, Indonesia, and I moved. And so this was June 27th, 2016.
Wow, you just had an anniversary.
Yeah, I just had an anniversary, right? And so after doing so, I was able to, no, my only goal while going there was to write and learn how to meditate from the ancient teachers. So I didn't book any plans in advance. I didn't look for the posh meditation resorts. I didn't do any of that. I said, I'm going to go there and find a teacher. So said, so done, or whatever. I got off the plane or whatever. I went into my Airbnb that I booked. Hey, Airbnb, hi. But I did that. And then after that, I went to a restaurant where I saw a guy, like really early one morning, like maybe like 8, 9 a.m. I went to a restaurant. Everybody kept saying, you got to eat at the restaurant down the road. You got to eat. It's a great vegetarian restaurant. I'm a vegetarian. So And so I said, okay, cool, I'm gonna check them out. And I went there one morning, maybe after 9, and they weren't open yet. But the guy said, come on, just sit down and I'll wait. So we started talking, and it turns out that he was the owner of the restaurant. His name was Tony Suwardi. So he owns a number of restaurants out in Bali, Indonesia. And so we talked for what seemed like an hour or two, and he was like, where are you from? I said, I'm from New York City, and I came here to learn how to meditate from the teachers. He's like, oh, I teach meditation. I was like, wow, okay, cool. But I didn't think anything of it. So I went home after leaving him, and I said, I think I found my teacher. I think I found my meditation teacher, which was the goal. And I believe whatever you put out there, you're going to definitely find is going to come and find you. And so the next day I went back. I said, you're my teacher. He's like, what? I said, you're a meditation teacher. I said, I put it out in the atmosphere that I was looking for a meditation teacher, and you teach meditation. And he had an unconventional way of teaching meditation, but it was like hands-on, which I'm a very hands-on person. I cannot sit still and learn in a classroom for long periods of time. I'm very hands-on.
Right.
And so he did that for me. He took me out into Bali, into the backwoods of Bali, and taught me meditation principles just based on me kind of just experiencing the life around me. And so that was amazing for me to learn, and it kept me engaged. And one of the best lessons he taught me, just always keep your mind busy. Have I told you that already? No. Okay.
Which is the opposite of what, some things say, like when your mind is busy. That's not usually a relaxing thing.
No, he told me always keep your mind busy. That was lesson number 1. So the first lesson, after I told him he's my teacher, the first lesson, he said, okay, meet me tomorrow night up the road at one of his other locations. So I'm looking at the time. He's like 9. He's like 9 o'clock. I said, I'm from New York City. I don't know. Why am I meditating at 9 o'clock at night? You know what I mean? That's my thought process. So I didn't go. And so I didn't go until the following day. I went to go see him. And so he said, do you not want to learn how to meditate? I was like, who are you talking to? He was like, I asked you to meet me last night at 9 o'clock, but you didn't come. And I said, yeah, it was kind of late. It was on the opposite side of town. I'm not familiar with that area. And so he was like, you don't trust. And until you learn how to trust yourself, you're not going to learn how to trust anybody else around you. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. And so he said, okay, let's continue on with lesson number 1. And so he said, we're gonna practice today. So he put a bushel of what looked like spinach leaves, but I don't think it was spinach. It was maybe like moringa leaves, something like that. Like a bushel. He had a whole bunch of branches that had these leaves on it.
Like lavender, maybe.
No, it wasn't
Like a smudge
lavender.
stick. Maybe.
Yeah, and so he put like a whole bunch. No,
Okay.
it was like natural green leaves from his garden.
Okay.
And so he placed like a table, about this size table. He like about 3 feet off the table. He put a whole bunch of them in front of me and said, pick the leaves off the branches. So I'm sitting there like, who is he speaking to? Like, I have 2 degrees. I came here to learn how to meditate. I didn't come here to start picking leaves off branches. Like, coming from America, we tend to have these ideas of who we think we are, right? And so I'm somewhere in nowhere, like 10,000 miles away from home, telling this guy I want him to be my meditation teacher, and he's telling me
You don't want to listen.
pick. Yeah, I definitely didn't want to listen. He's telling me to pick leaves off branches, so I was already annoyed. So I'm picking leaves off like this, like just kind of upset and annoyed. I'm picking the leaves off, and so I had to say, Mirielle, calm down. So he walked away. Like he said, pick the leaves off, and he walked away. So after he walked away, I was really in my head, like just trying to calm myself down. And so he comes back maybe like 15 minutes later, and then he says, that was lesson number 1. Always keep your mind busy. If you don't give your mind something to do, it's going to create all these thoughts and keep you and try to engage you to find things that are unproductive. And I said, this is the best teacher in the world, because I never knew that it was a lesson, but that's how all of his lessons were. His lessons were like he just threw me right in there where I didn't even expect them, and it was amazing. So I became a certified meditation teacher with him, as well as a neuro-linguistic therapist. That's what he does as well. And so just learning how to engage people and learning how to teach them how to tap into themselves and to find their own personal magic, just using meditation as a vehicle.
Okay. Wow. Well,
That's a lot.
it reminded me of like the Karate Kid. Wax on, wax off. I guess it's basically the same principles. And I think I guess I know you got your lesson because I went to your book launch, and so I experienced the meditation, and all I could say is she's a powerful woman, and not only powerful for yourself, but in people surrounding you. So it's about empowering others
Yes.
and awakening people to their own magic, as you
Yes.
say. So I definitely saw that for myself, and so I appreciate that, and I'm happy that you were able to pull it to get those lessons,
Yeah.
so you could bring it to America in your own way and help people. Learn that don't. I mean, I meditate daily, not so much like the 15. Some people do 10 minutes in the morning, maybe 10 minutes at night. But I have to find time in my day to meditate. Usually right before I go to sleep, as well as.
We all have the time, We all have the time to meditate. We all have the time to do anything we want, to be honest. However, we just have to place it on as make it a priority. If we don't make
That's
it a
what I said.
priority, you're never gonna find time for it, right? Just like even throughout the day, I don't care how busy you are, you find time to go to the bathroom, you find time to eat, you find time to drink water, you find time to do the things that are a priority to you and sustaining you. So until you make a meditation a priority, you're gonna always think that you don't have time, because to me, it's very important that you give back to yourself. I think in our society, we're always taught how to give to others, give to others, give to others. Fantastic. However, if you're not doing for you, you are not necessarily feeding yourself, and we could only give to others once you have filled yourself up, right? It's like I always tell people, it's like a bank account. You have to put money into the bank account. If you keep withdrawing money from the bank account and giving it to other people, eventually your account is going to be in the negative. And so this is what usually happens when people have emotional breakdowns or start going through depression, whatever it is, because you've been expending all of your energy for everyone else, but you haven't been putting into yourself. One of the ways you can put into yourself is developing self-care practices that are going to heal you even without you even realize it, but self-care practices that are going to feed your soul. If you don't have anything that's feeding your soul, then that means that you're only giving out and there's nothing going back into the bank account. So some of the things you can do to do that is meditation, yoga. If you journal, I'm a big on journaling as well. Just any practice that is just for you and you alone. That means if you have children, this is not the time that you're engaging with your kids. If you're married, this is not the time that you're engaging with your spouse. This is a time that is a sacred time for you and you alone. And that's it. Doing something that you love doing something that's personal to you, and you're feeding your soul. When you feed your soul, is going to reward you by giving you creative ideas, inspiration. All of a sudden, you have days that you're just filled with joy. You don't even understand why, but it's because you're tapping into self.
Yes. Well, I know all about that, and I don't know if you heard me wrong, but I did say I have to make the time for meditation before I go to bed. And you mentioned that people, when you first went to Bali, how you came with your idea of who you were and so forth, and that's an important point. And I do hospice and palliative care volunteering, and one of the things I noticed, like at end of life, like people that know who they are in life and not think that they're what they do, have a happier, when your day is at the end, you can leave peacefully. But people who think and never learned who they were and only associate themselves with, oh, I was this big exec, and then maybe you're at a stage in your life where you have to depend on someone. You can't even take the help from someone else because you never learned, you only, maybe people you just gave to people, and you never learned who you were. So now you're bitter, you're unhappy, you make people around you. So I've learned that, so I just want to let people know, it's great that we do all of these things and we serve in the world, but to just know yourself, you have to know yourself first. And then when the days are, at the end, you can leave, if you have to come back for another life, you can come back in peace. But I just wanted to share that because when you said that, that's what it reminded me of, and it's so true. So, so you launched the book. I believe it was May 25th.
May 25th.
Yeah. So tell me how it's been since you launched the book.
It's been exciting. It's been a wild ride. Like, for those people who don't know me, like, online, wherever, I'm known as the Hazy Unicorn. And it's because most people have always told me all my life, like you create magic. And I used to be like, I want you to tell me what magic I create. Like, what's my magic? So I used to go to people asking them to tell me what is the thing that they see within me that they think is magical. And they're like, I don't know. It's just so magical. Like, when I come around you, I feel happy. I feel like I can do anything, or whatever the case is. And so that's where the book title comes from, The Hazy Unicorn. Because it's my personal belief that all of us have magic within us, or whatever. However, we could be kind of confused, hazy, kind of foggy about it, about what it is. And most of the time, it's something that you've been doing forever and ever, and it comes so natural to you that you give it away. With mine is empowering and inspiring other people. That's just hands down. That's just mine. But I didn't know that because it was a part of my everyday life. I've been doing this forever and ever. And so ever since the book launch, I've been doing more of that. More empowering, more inspiring people using meditation as a vehicle, helping people to tap into who they are using meditation to kind of do that, as well as confronting life lessons, life obstacles in which we may go through. So stuff with relationships, stuff with self-image. I have a podcast called The Magical Mess Podcast, which helps people to kind of see how their life experiences had led them to where they are, and see what things they can change using meditation. So things have been kind of a wild ride. I'm currently on book tour right now.
And where's the podcast? Where can we? Is that on SoundCloud?
No, my podcast can be found on Apple Podcasts, as well as Spotify, as well as the Google Play Music Store.
Okay, so we'll have that information at the end of the show.
And what else? So as I was saying, I'm currently on a book tour, and this book tour is really exciting. It's right now we're touring through the New York City tri-state area, and we were going to be going out to California as well. And just kind of it's a meditation and book tour. It's called the Magical Mindfulness Meditation Tour. So I'm helping people to kind of begin the process of learning how to learning how to meditate using the book. As well as answering any questions that people may have regarding how to get started, and breathing techniques and things of the sort.
Okay, and then it also like once you complete the 31 days, it has a certificate at the end of the book.
You're spoiling it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So
yes,
you know you have something to look forward to.
Yes, there is a meditation master certificate at the end of the book that helps people to kind of feel like you've arrived, to feel like you've achieved something, especially when you do the 31 days. And I encourage people, even after you do the 31 days, do them again, because that's the only way you become a master at anything. You have to continually practice it. And the perfect thing about this meditation guide is that it allows you to, even if you miss a day or two, you can pick up right where you left off and get started there, because that's why it's called the Not So Perfect Guide to Mastering Meditation in 31 Days, because I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, and I realize that. And most times when people buy these books, like 10 steps to meditate, 10 steps to do this, or whatever the case is, they get so overwhelmed because they feel like if they miss step 1 or step 2 or whatever the case is, they can't go back. Mine is, you know that you're going to mess up. I encourage you. I said, I know that there are going to be days you're going to miss it. There was a party going on. There was this happening. Whatever happened. And you missed that day. Just pick up right where you left off and get back on track. Because that's what I do even with my own practice.
Okay. And it's you also do, it involves journaling and in the meditation.
Yes,
right?
Yes. Yep. There's a way to actually keep track of what you're experiencing in meditation, so that by the end of the 31 days you can see how you've progressed. So there's a journaling component in the book where you can journal and write down your experiences, how you felt in the beginning versus how you feel now, as well as answer some questions about your personal practice during that day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before so what else you do? You said you do coaching as well, and so before all of this happened, you said you were unemployed and you used to be a executive.
Yeah.
And so, you did not meditate during that time?
No, I didn't, because I was the bomb. I thought I was the bomb. I didn't need to meditate. I'm still at the bomb, guys. I need you to know that. So
if you had to compare, like not meditating and being the bomb in corporate America, and now being a coach, a person to empower others, and author, traveling artist. So tell me, like, the insight the difference in your life you see between the two.
I think that when I was in corporate, not anything wrong with corporate, but when I was in corporate, I had a false identity. Who I thought I was with the titles, and I was traveling and doing shows and conferences. I was doing a lot of the same work I do here, but I was doing it for a corporation. So who I thought I was then, it was false. It was a false. I had a false concept of who I was. Like I would have to gear myself up to go on stage and present this software, this program or whatever it was. And so everybody at the end of this thing was like, oh my goodness, this is great, this, that, and third. But I had to kind of get myself excited to do that. Does that make sense? Whereas now, I just show up.
Just be.
I just show up who I am because I'm continually tapping into myself, because I have this introspective life in which I live with, where I really work, like even whenever anything that doesn't go my way happen, my first thing is, okay, how could I have changed this? Or what did I do that contributed to this, whatever happened? Because that way it allows me to take the focus off of my surroundings and allow me to tap into myself to figure out how I could be better, how I could refine it. Because my personal goal in life is to be the very best version of me, whoever that is, right? And so to go back to your question, looking at the two now, I live a totally different life. I'm freer, and back then I thought I was. That's the crazy thing. Everything I'm feeling now, I thought that I was experiencing that when I was in that situation, and it took me being laid off and feeling lost for quite some time, having to take little odds and ends jobs here and there, going back to school, getting my master's, and in media as well as business, and just trying to figure out what's next. And it took that time where I just was kind of feeling around in the dark for a bit. But if that didn't happen, I would not be here. Does that make sense? And so sometimes it's life transitions that forces us to elevate, that forces us to grow and see things differently. Because even during the time that I was laid off, I was offered other jobs. I was offered other jobs doing the same thing, if not similar to what I had left, what I was laid off from. And I'm going to tell you, I didn't take them. This whole time, I had rent to pay. I was about to be evicted. I had no food, like nothing to eat. I had all of this going on, but I did not take those jobs. Because deep down inside, there was a voice that kept saying, if you take this, you're going to go back to the lifestyle that you just left. And I'm like, but what was wrong with that lifestyle? I didn't know. But
you listen.
But I listened. I
Right.
listened to that small. It's a tiny
Always
voice.
this little voice.
It's a
that
little voice.
you have to listen to.
And I said, I don't know what moving forward is gonna look like, but I
But you
really
have to
know
trust.
what moving backward, what going back and accepting this is gonna look like, right? And sometimes that's the only decision we have. That's the only choice we have to make. Even if we don't know what it's going to look like if we move forward, we know what the thing is that we just left behind.
Right.
And so you got to decide, do you want to go back to what you left behind, or are you going to just take the risk and move forward blindly? And that's what I did.
Well, that was a wise choice.
I think so.
And so that was before. You actually listened before you went to ballet.
Yeah.
So, and then that's probably after you listened to the voice.
Yep.
Then another voice came and said,
Yeah, it gets
"Sell all your
stronger.
stuff and move to ballet."
It gets stronger. Once you start trusting yourself and listening to that little voice, it's going to become a little bit louder
Right.
and a little bit louder. And when it gets a little bit louder, you it's there to guide you. It's there to help you navigate throughout life's obstacles, right? And so what happens is that we forget that. And we tend to listen to all the other voices that are in our lives, telling us, "Hey, you should do this, or you can do this, or you can get
why
this
you want to
promotion."
do that?
Yeah, and so we tend to allow all those other voices to speak louder than the internal voice. I don't move without this internal voice telling me to do something.
Right.
I don't do a thing without it, and that's just the way I live my life. I meditate before I do anything, and that allows me to stay focused, stay centered, allows me to make sure that every decision in which I make is a decision that comes from here, and not a decision based off something that's false. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so that way, even if it doesn't work out like I wanted it to, or whatever, I can own up to it. I can say I decided that. I can be held
Right.
accountable for it because it was my choice.
Right. And also you can, like, that would be another part of it, because being accountable for things. Some people, you know, they can't, it's always something outside of themselves. That's the reason, you know.
course.
But when you know who you are, no matter what the situation, you can own up to it, take responsibility, you know, and not blame others.
And that's the way growth happens.
Yes.
Growth only happens when we're willing to be confronted with the truth. And if you don't want to be confronted with the truth, you're going to stay in the same position, doing the same things forever and ever and ever until you're willing to grow and say, you know what?
I need
This is my fault. I did this. And be able to take responsibility, whatever that looks like for you. So, yeah.
And so tell me too, you also do poetry.
I do. How'd you know?
So tell me a little bit about that. Was that a part of the journey, or is that something new, old?
I've been a writer all my life.
Okay.
Since I was young, I would write just
Okay,
anything.
like a journal.
Yes,
You journal. Okay.
I've been journaling all my life, and so journaling used to start in forms of poetry, and so I used to have books and books on poems from the time I was a kid. Because I'm a middle child, I always did everything my way. So I never really I never did what I was told, but mostly did what I felt I wanted to do. So I spent a lot of time alone as a middle child, and so I took that time and I wrote poems. I did all of that. So recently, well, not recently, a couple of years ago, I went through a breakup, and so I realized that the poetry helped me get over the breakup. And so this is back maybe 4 years ago, and it really helped me to kind of tap back into that writer side of me, because I had lost it. You know, life, climbing up those corporate ladders, doing all those things to be successful as we think, but success is different to everybody. You know what I mean? And so the minute I started tapping back into that and started writing again, I felt free. I felt so free. And so I continued to channel that, and I just kept writing. Until because this is actually my second book. My first book I wrote after I came back from Bali, though, because when I told you that my whole goal when I went to Bali was to write a book, because I had a book that I was working on for 5 years before going to Bali that I couldn't get past chapter 2, and so after coming back from Bali, with my teacher, he said you have some blockages, and I'm going to release you. Like you're going to have to release some of these blockages in order to finish writing this book. And I said, okay. So he said, in order for you to write this book, you're going to have to change your environment, which is why with meditation, that's one of the first things. Find an environment that's conducive to allow you to meditate. Because if you're not in a good environment or an environment that's conducive to what you're trying to do, it's gonna be like fighting against something, right? So that was the first thing. So when I came back from Bali, I went and stayed with my sister in Maryland for quite some time. She lives alone, so I was able to have the place alone to myself for quite some time, and I just wrote. So after 30 days, he said the goal is to write the book in 30 days, and after 30 days, I finished with a 264-page manuscript, and so that's my first book. So it actually details the story of my parents and how they came from Haiti to America, and to kind of create the lifestyle for their children during wartime in Haiti with the president that they had at the time, Papa Doc, and then Baby Doc, his son. So that one you can expect that out.
What's the name of that book?
On the Run.
Okay. And did you self-publish that book, or
no? It hasn't been published as of yet. So my goal is to publish that maybe late 2019, early 2020.
Okay.
So yeah, that one's actually a novel, so it's a little bit thicker.
Sounds like, it may be right on time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was recently, I was listening to, she's one of the forerunners for hypnosis.
Okay.
And she was talking about this book she wrote. I think she wrote it like in the 60s. And then she's about to release it now because she knew that people wouldn't be ready for it. So it reminds me of that.
Yeah.
So, wow.
Yeah, because everything is about time and season. So I even had this thing I was thinking about. Samira, you should release that first because you wrote that already. But I felt really passionate about releasing the meditation guide because right now, mindfulness, mental health, all those things are on the forefront because people are realizing that we haven't been taking care of ourselves. We've been doing everything else. We've been going to the gym and looking outside of ourselves, right?
buying.
Yeah,
Items and
to make you feel gratified,
cars,
to make you feel happy.
houses, and it doesn't work.
Working out five to 6 days a week to fix the body, but nobody's been healing the soul, healing the spirit. So as a result, we realize that there's an imbalance. And so once you start connecting back with yourself, you start realizing that it's well worth it.
Okay, great. Well, I feel like I'm not in Bali, but
You had a
I
Balinese
need to be. I
experience.
need to, definitely could get into that experience. And, I'm just journaling through my mind of, nature and peace, quiet, and what that's all about.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Okay, so we're going to meditate. I typically tend to meditate to soothing sounds, ambient noises, and so that way it allows you to kind of create the experience within yourself because our senses always have a way to pick up stuff, right? To pick up everything in the environment and use it within our body. So in terms of this meditation, one of the first things that I like to encourage people to do is figure out what is that thing that is pressing on them right now in that very moment, whether it's financial issues, health issues, what is that one thing in which you're thinking about right now or whatever, and to use that as your intention, like you use that as the thing in which you're placing your intention on, either to get rid of it or to make that situation better, whatever it may be. And then and then secondly, use an affirmation. An affirmation is something that affirms what it is that you're aspiring to do. So an affirmation would be something like I am beautiful, I am love, or or something like that. So for today's meditation, we're gonna use something simple like I am one with myself. Right? I am one with myself just means exactly what it sounds like. I am one with myself. That all the elements, all the parts that make up who you are, that you collectively bringing them together to say I am one with myself. That can kind of put yourself back together again, no matter what you're going through. And so lastly, we're going to focus on breathing deeply, taking 3 deep breaths. Go in. When I say a deep breath, you're going to start from the diaphragm, go all the way up, hold that breath for a count of 3, release it slowly. If you want to, you can close your eyes. It makes for a better experience. So you're going to do this again. Another deep breath. Hold it for a count of 3 and release it slowly. One more time. Hold it for a count of 3 and release it slowly. Once you start any meditation, breathing deeply, you are instinctively telling your brain it's time to go in. It's time to silence out everything else that's happening to just go in. And so, as of right now, with this practice, I'd like you to just focus on continuing those patterns of deep breathing. Breathing deeply, holding it for a count of 3, and releasing it slowly. One thing a lot of people don't realize that it's difficult for the brain to create new ideas and new thoughts if it's focusing on breathing deeply. And so one of the things that I hear all the time is that people say, I have trouble silencing my thoughts. It's never the goal for you to silence your thoughts because we're going to be thinking all the time. The goal is to acknowledge your thoughts and let them dissipate in the abyss. but keep focusing on the breathing. A deep breath, holding it for a count of 3 and releasing it slowly. If you do this practice for a minimum of 5 minutes a day, or setting a timer if you feel comfortable with that, if you want to have some light ambient sounds in the background, you're going to begin to feel a sense of clarity, a sense of focus, a sense of like you just feeling calmer and being able to manage your emotions a lot better, especially if you continue this practice daily. Meditation, well, the meditation that I practice is Kriya Yoga, which is to connect you back to yourself. When you're connected back to self, everything just begins the process of working together. Continue with the breathing. Releasing slowly. Our breath is the life energy of the body. Just imagine your breath as being the energy that controls everything that's going on in your body.
In these evil and troubled times, it's really hard to see the sunshine. It's even harder to smile when all you want to do is frown and cry. I know times is hard, but you still got to clean up your backyard. You got more strength than you know. Sometimes it gets lost in the overflow. Stop walking all around with your head hung down. Oh yeah. Stop walking around with your head all hung down and just stand up. Stand up. Or just stand on up. Stand up. Or just stand right up. Stand up. Or just stand on up. Stand hey, up. Hold your head up high and walk with pride. People will look at you surprised, 'cause you got a new stride. They'll wonder where you got it and wanna know how to go and get it. You just take